Hi, everybody. Pat Patterson here. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you dropping by. Don't forget, you need to be a subscriber and like our channel, because if you do, you got a chance coming up on December 10th to win a NASCAR driving experience. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you a dime. Well, the season's in the books as far as stock car racing goes on the big scale. Joey Logano, the big winner, and when it comes to the cup sides of things, Zane Smith, of course, pulled it off in the trucks, and Ty Gibbs won everything in the Xfinity Series as we wrapped that up just a few weeks ago. Next week, we'll be off for Thanksgiving. Want to wish you and your family the best of the Thanksgiving holiday. Remember to be very safe out there on the roadways, and be sure to check back on our channel. So we got a great upload for you today, going back to 1995. We were actually in Daytona, and we were filming at a Corvette museum right around the corner from the racetrack. We were getting ready for the 24 Hours of Daytona, the annual race around the clock, as we like to call it, the Rolex 24. Great show. We had Dorsey Schroeder showed up, a great road racer. Bill Adam, also a great road racer and a good broadcaster as well. Paul Gentilozzi and James Weaver are on this show. Wayne Taylor and Steve Millen, Charlie Slater, a whole lot of folks as we get ready to start that season off in 1995, because we all know it's the Rolex 24 kind of kicks everything off when it comes to Daytona. So have a safe and fun Thanksgiving with your family. Be safe out there. And remember, subscribe to the channel, because you might have a chance to win all kinds of fun things. But coming up on December 10th, we will give away the NASCAR driving experience. I'm Pat Patterson, the racing guy. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time.
From Daytona Beach, Florida, and the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona, Western Auto presents the Pat Patterson Raceweek Specials.
And good evening, everybody, from Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm Pat Patterson. We are so glad you've joined us for our very first Race Week special for 1995. You noticed a little different there. Last year, they were all Winston Cup-oriented shows. This year, we've switched to include a whole lot of great racing and a whole lot of great people that you'll get to meet throughout this year that race in many different forms of auto racing. But the story this weekend is really the kickoff of racing here in the United States. It is the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. We have a whole bunch of people on this show that are going to be participating, and I'll just about bet you that we may have the winner here tonight. Of course, we won't know until the race is complete. 24 hours starting tomorrow afternoon here at the Daytona International Speedway. So you stick around. We'll be back with a great lineup of drivers. We'll do this time out, and we'll be back with our very first Western Auto Race Week Special right after this.
The Pat Patterson Raceweek Specials, brought to you by Western Auto, the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR.
Hard charging parts, smooth riding parts, big blocking and knocking and locking parts. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts. Western Auto has over 100,000 parts available when you need them 7 days a week. Serious parts at serious savings. Hey, we know what you want. Protect your engine with dependable Prestone antifreeze and coolant from Western Auto. Prestone all-weather protection. Western Auto's no stranger to these parts.
Who's getting happy? Who's having fun? Who's been to Hooters? Come on, everyone, it's at Hooters. Hooters. Hooters makes you happy. Hooters makes you happy. Hooters makes you happy. Hooters makes you happy. Good times, great food, fun music, what a hoot. Hooters. Hooters. Everybody's getting happy at Hooters.
back to Daytona Beach, everybody. We're at the Classic Auto Museum, which is right at the corner of I-95 and what they used to call Volusia Boulevard, probably about a mile and a half up from the Speedway. And you'll see a lot of this place. We'll be here tonight, and we'll also be back next week. And if you're in Daytona Beach or making plans to come down for all the Speed Week activities, I want to remind you to be sure and come by and see the great exhibits here at the Classic Auto Museum. Joining me now, two guys who I don't think are ready for the museum yet. In fact, they're going to be all fired up tomorrow afternoon when the Rolex 24 rolls here at Daytona. Bill Adam to my left, and to my immediate left, Dorsey Schroeder. And gentlemen, you have one of the most beautiful new Porsches that I've ever seen. I told somebody the other day the paint job, Bill, probably cost more than the average guy's house. Tell me about the car and tell me about the ride so far.
It is pretty spectacular, and we're really pleased with it. It's one of the brand new, the 993 Porsches. This is the kind of the second generation when they finally built a real honest-to-God suspension under the back end for Porsches. So with the fabled Porsche reliability, it's the first time since 1983, we were talking earlier, and I don't like endurance races. Somebody once said that the guy who originated endurance race should be reincarnated as a right rear tire at the 500, and that's about it. They're awful, but this year to get back into this new car, it's pretty exciting.
Dorsey, same question. So far, what do you think of the car itself?
You know, I've got a lot of time here in the 24 hours. This is the first real production type car I've ever driven here, and I tell you, I love it. It's cushy. You know, got power steering, got power brakes. It's a street car. It's essentially a street car, and you can get complacent about the fact that you're running around here at 190 miles an hour. It is really neat. Having a great time.
Difficulties, any at all, at the first few laps you got in the car, things you were looking for, being that it had never, you know, this is his first appearance?
I never drove the Porsche before with the rear engine. Everybody's made, you know, comment, man, you better watch that thing, it's going to get out. It's a great car. Not a lot of trouble, except it came in Tuesday last week, and we haven't had time to adjust for it. And we've been really working hard at it, and Hans Stuck's been doing the driving development work, and each time I get in the car, it's better. No, it's just another race car. It's a good race car.
Bill, this Porsche dealer that you guys are working with out of Florida, the largest Porsche dealer in America.
Largest in the world.
Yeah, in the world. They spare no expense, so you guys have got the best of everything. And that helps, I know, when you're looking at this thing.
It really does. It's kind of unique that over the years, Dorsey and I have been with a lot of different teams, and I can honestly say that this year is something new for me, that I've got a new incentive to win. Generally, racing is pretty selfish. You want to win for yourself and for your crew, but the man who owns Champion Porsche has just been such a unique individual that it's one of these things that I don't want to win for myself anymore. It's to make a gift of a trophy to this man for what he has done.
Is it just me, or does this really, in your mind, kick off racing in America? I mean, in this where it all starts, this is the starting line where we all...
It does kick it off, but if they ever held the 24 at the end of the year, nobody would participate. You have to get into it and get it out of the way, because it's a terrible race.
We used to end the season, or one of the seasons here in Daytona, in Thanksgiving. I remember eating turkey here many times. Now, I'm sure, Dorsey, that you can remember your very first 24 at Daytona. Tell us about it.
It was my first and worst, without question.
Keep it that way.
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's 86, 87. We're doing a factory experimental Dodge GTU front-wheel drive car, never been done before, with over 250 horsepower. Pretty ugly car, to make a long story short. The worst moment of my life on the straightaway, believe it or not, going through the banking, NASCAR 3 and 4, the car just got loose. I don't know why, spun. And when it spun, I looked eye to eye with A.J. Foyt, who was driving the Copenhagen 962 Porsche, and knowing A.J.'s temper, I thought, oh God, I hope he doesn't know who I am.
How about Bill, you remember your first one?
Yeah, 1980 with Group 44 and a TR8. And at that time, I still thought a 24-hour race was fun, so that shows you how naive I was.
What do you think about the IMSA season as far as lots of politics, lots of things going on, and I know everybody wants to enter this year in a very positive mode and so forth, but reflect, if you will, or give me a perspective, if you will, of what we will see this year.
I think you're going to see a lot of good competition. IMSA is taking steps to try and slow the Ferraris down, which hands down are the favorite cars, but they should be the favorite since they're $1 million apiece. They're trying to equalize them into a formula where, well, I can't say an average sportsman, but at least a sportsman who can afford a $200,000 race car can come out and compete with that $1 million car. So the steps they're taking, I think, are good, positive steps, but there's still a long way to go, as there is in our class, in the GT class, where we can get the Champion Porsche competing with the Nissans, with the Oldsmobile team, with so on. They still have a step up on us.
Dorsey's still pretty much a gun for hire. What have you hired yourself out to do this year?
Well, you know, they've called me, Porsche called a couple weeks ago to come here and try to win with this car. I've never driven a car like this, you know, a street-based rear-engine car. I didn't know what to expect. I thought we would be a lot worse off than we are, and right now I got to tell you, I'm real optimistic. The car is a good race car. We're not too far off of the real fast guys' times, and fuel mileage could play into our hand. This could be the car that could instead of the car that couldn't.
I think a lot of people that watch racing, particularly oval track racing, look at a race like this and they go, you know, God, 24 hours of going around the same thing. And of course, everybody understands that no one person could ever do that by themselves. But as far as making a team work, a lot of times you get here and 3 or 4 of the guys you may be racing with you never even met before.
Right.
Can you actually assemble a team for a 24-hour race, Dorsey, in just a couple of days of practice?
You can. It takes a lot of everybody being on the same page, no question about it. We all have to talk the same language. We all have to have a game plan and stick to it. Discipline. This isn't a 24-hour race. It's an endurance event. When you start thinking race, you'll lose. You know, you have to do everything disciplined in a proper order, and if you can get everybody thinking on the same channel, then in fact, yeah, you can do that, no question about it.
Now, how many stints, Bill, will you do in the car if you go from start to finish?
We'll probably each be in the car for 2 single stints that we're going to try and get all drivers in for a 1-hour stint while it's daylight, just to refresh your memory and kind of kindle up the enthusiasm. And then we'll do 2 double shifts in the middle of the night, which means we'll run an hour, which is what a tank of fuel will give us. Come in, refuel the car, go back out, do another hour. The beauty of that is you get a fair amount of time out of the car to relax and settle down before you have to get back in. So you're always trying to put a fresh driver in the car to keep safety absolute #1.
Dorsey, do you actually get rest? I mean, when you think about it, Daytona International Speedway does not have lights on it like the Charlotte Motor Speedway does, so you're depending on whatever lights you have here. And the truth is, aren't you really just seeing reference points as opposed to headlights that are on a passenger car? Can you compare the two things at all?
It's not a comparison really, but the focus that a race car driver has at night, I think, is enhanced by the fact that he can't see the surroundings on him. I think I'm better at night. I'm more accurate at night because you're only limited to what you can see. You're really looking for a focal point. And the car is almost always faster at night. I'm more relaxed at night than in the day. There's less distractions, no question about it. That you know, after you get out of the car relaxing, like Bill was talking about, getting out and having 6 hours of sleep, no, I can't. You know, I think about it too much.
You climb in the car, you've got the adrenaline flowing, you go out, you work your hour 45, you know you got 15 minutes to go, you climb back out of the car. How do you get yourself mentally ready to put yourself back in that car maybe 4 hours later, the same person that got out 4 hours earlier?
Well, you know, hopefully you've rested some. Something I learned a long time ago is even if you can't sleep, which I can't, it's really important to get off your feet, lay down, get prone. I'll just sit there and listen to the PA announcer talk about what happens. And the first time a yellow comes out, poof, you're out of bed anyway, running like crazy. But it's really important, close your eyes, relax, do whatever you can, because 4 hours later, you've got to perform again. And if you walk around all night, like the first couple of years I did this, there won't be anything left to you come the next day.
Same question, Bill. Do you sleep? I mean, can you go cat nap at all, or do you are you awake the whole time?
Yeah, I stay awake pretty well the whole time too. It's an ability that I wish I could acquire because it would have to be beneficial, but it's like Dorsey said, that you can almost change 2 different periods of your life. That one, while you're in the car, you're in a certain mode, and you get out of the car and you can kind of relax. And then the time comes to come back in, it's a light switch in the wall. You just change into that other personality.
More than any other event, do you drive away from this place with more frustration if it goes bad than anything else that you do, or do you drive away from here with the greatest satisfaction if it goes good? Does this place hand out its own special emotions more than any other place?
Yeah, it does. And in both cases, it can be incredibly frustrating, just an absolute heartbreak. But you may not enjoy the win as much because you're just so exhausted. You're really physically and mentally beat up at the end of this race. So it's nice to win, but you're dog-tired.
Same question, Dorsey. You ever walked away from here with, it goes back, can a racer ever remember anything but the last race he ran?
Winning here, you know, is so special and it's so rare, you know, for most people to get a win here that it's an extremely special thing. You're so fatigued, you're so tired, the crew has done more than you have, and everybody as a whole unit is so happy, it's great. Coming here second sucks.
Yeah, period.
No other way to put it.
You work
does.
way too hard. In second place, it's just nothing. There's no enjoyment. I mean, some people come into it and they say, oh, well, we finished it, but when you really get competitive and you're thinking about winning, second place after all that work isn't worth it.
Okay, well, it's the final question. Will Ferrari last? I mean, everybody can speculate. We all can be good armchair speculators. What do you think? Have they done enough work over the winter and over the past year to get the reliability out of the cars?
With Paul Gentilozzi driving, you think that transmission will last? I don't know.
We will have Paul with us in just a moment. What about it, Dorsey? You want to predict something here? Will Porsche reign and rule as it has so many times in the 24?
You know, the number one guy here, really, when you look at all things, is Jack Roush, and I drove for Jack all the years we won. We won 9 years in a row. He's never been beaten, and every year I ever drove, we lost the transmission, and the Ferraris have got a very weak gearbox. No, they're not going to win this race.
Well, guys, you got your work cut out for you. You got a great team over there, and I know you were both looking forward to getting at it tomorrow afternoon. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Bill Adam, Dorsey Schroeder, and we'll see you out there tomorrow. We'll see you when we come back. We're going to take this time out. We'll be back to the Classic Museum right here in Daytona Beach, Florida. So you stick around. We'll be right back.
Ferrari is just a brand new ball game, much faster, like a Formula One with bodywork on it, I guess, is the comparison.
And welcome back to Classics Auto Museum right here in Daytona Beach, Florida, where we're all getting ready for what initially kicks off the racing year here in North America. It's the 24 hours, Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Joining me right now to my immediate left, Paul Gentilozzi, who I think is qualified second on the grid at this time, and James Weaver sits to his left. And correct me, am I wrong, or are you guys still second on, starting tomorrow?
Yeah, the 3 car is still second, and our team car, the 33 car, is on the pole.
James, you're right there in the top 5.
Yeah, I think Andy Evans' team's rather hogging it, sort of monopolising the front row. But we're on the 3rd row of the grid with our new Ford-powered Riley and Scott car. So we're right there with them.
Well, you know, they're talking as if this car of yours might be the real one to beat in this event. Do you feel that way after 2 days of working with it in practice?
It's obviously very new, Pat, but the car is absolutely fabulous. Riley and Scott have done a superb job with it, and I think aerodynamically it's the best car out there. The engine's fabulous. It's just very new, so we'll take it gently. But I hope we'll really take the fight to them as the year progresses.
Well, taking the fight to them is something they hired you to do in this particular deal, did they not, Mr. Gentilozzi? I think they recruited you on the basis of we need somebody to stand on this thing hard. What chances do you have, and how do you feel about it after a couple days of practice?
Well, I would think that the Ferrari going in would be the logical favorite. It's a car that has a tremendous tradition in sprint racing, but not a history recently of endurance racing. It was a big gamble. There's a big PR gamble here for Ferrari. They don't do things that they don't do well. So we are here to win the race, and we're not going to try to sprint away.
Well, we were watching you in victory lane there last year, and I know that once you win here, it's particularly hard to finish second, isn't it?
Well, having gone home many times at Daytona before midnight, it's hard to understand the feeling of winning this race. It really doesn't sink in for a few days afterwards until you read the newspaper and some of the trade magazines that you really appreciate the accomplishment.
James, when you think about this event, when you prepare for this event up here mentally, do you come back here better prepared every year? Is it true that experience every year prepares you better the next year, or do you struggle with different things? Like 2 years ago you struggled with this, you come back, you eliminate that problem, do you develop new problems, or does it all depend on the car itself?
I think the car you're driving obviously influences things, but for me, Daytona is just such a fabulous race. I really enjoy it. Whenever I come here, I just enjoy the event for what it is, and if you come away with something great, and if you don't, you always come back next year.
If your car has a weakness right now, what are you guys working the hardest on?
We think we'll just keep the revs down on the engine. We're very confident in the engine, the gearbox, the whole car. It's beautifully designed, but it's brand new. So we'll look at what Ferrari are doing at the start of the race, probably go 2 or 3 seconds a lap slower, try and stay more or less in touch with them, and see how the race unfolds.
Is it difficult when you have a car that is as powerful as these cars are, and I ask you both the question, is it difficult to ride, which is what this event is all about, to just to try to hit that same time, lap after lap after lap? Is that a hard thing to do?
Only because of the traffic. I mean, you could lap within a second of what you can do every lap if you set yourself a pace day in, day out, but the traffic obviously influences it, particularly if you get caught at the chicane. But for us, we'll set a rev limit and stick to it religiously, and if you say, I mean, our engine's safe to 8,000 revs, but we'll probably rev to about 6-8 at the start of the race, but we'll drive as hard as we can without using more than that.
Do you hustle a car here, Paul?
Well, if you hustle it, you won't finish the race. There are times on Sunday, if you're still in at noon and you're a lap down, then you hustle. Early preservation is the issue, not allowing yourself to make a mistake, not paying much attention to what the competitors are doing. We've picked a pace, a numerical pace, and we're going to run that no matter what anybody else does until we're 12 hours in and decide then if we have something to race with.
Who's in charge? How do you decide who's going to be in charge when you bring talents together that first of all bring egos in trunks, not suitcases, and also bring lots of talent with those egos? How do you mesh those things together, and who takes charge of all of that?
Well, it's very interesting, at least on our team, because we have 7 drivers and people like Michele Alboreto and Stefan Johansson, Mauro Baldi, Eric Van der Poel. All of those people, Fermin Velez, they come with great experience, but they haven't been successful at Daytona. And they all want very much to do this. For a person like Alboreto to come and lend himself to an effort like this, it's a very special thing, because he has other things to do with his time.
Sure.
He doesn't have anything to prove. If we don't work together as 7 individuals, now as a team, we won't win this race. So we work on each other. If we feel one driver is being a little hard on the car, we're very quick to point it out and correct it.
James, same question. Now you come with some people that you've run with before.
Absolutely.
And that also has its advantages, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've driven for Rob for 9 years now. Scott Sharp joined us last year. Butch Leitzinger is new to the team, but the reason we're employing him is he won the race last year. Because we've never won it, we thought we'd ask him a few tricky questions and see if
You also read his head before you get is that a good luck charm?
Well, it's the first time I've driven with him,
Yeah.
and he's a lovely chap. He's done a great job in the car. He's right on the pace instantly. Scott's obviously very quick, won the Trans Am Championship, done IndyCars last year, and of course Rob is the leading World Sports Car, or IMSA, or most senior IMSA entrant. He's been racing sports cars for 10 years probably.
Let's get a little preview of what you guys will do after the 24 hours. Paul, what's up for you this year?
Well, we come right back to Road Atlanta to do some Trans Am testing, and then we're trying to work out the opportunity to run with the Exxon World Sports Cars at Sebring. After that, 2 or 3 more times perhaps in the World Sports Car Series, full Trans Am season, and maybe even an occasional GTS1 ride.
James, are you still competing with Derek Bell for the most frequent flyer points in the entire world, or?
He got off to a head start, but I reckon I must own at least the starboard wing of a 747 by now. I don't suppose Paul will tell us what pace he's going to run at the weekend, will he?
Sure. Oh,
Yeah, no, we're going to run 52s.
52s.
Yeah, a minute 52s.
Minute 52.
A minute
Yeah,
52s.
that's pretty antisocial, really, Pat. We were thinking we'd run about 55s, which is about 2 or 3 seconds off
You
that.
feel good about that, do you?
That, I think, is, reasonable pace, we reckon.
And we both think that gearboxes are not going to be a big problem here.
No, I think gearboxes are an issue. And all of our competitors know that the Ferrari box, which was designed for sprint racing, is a bit questionable, and it can be changed in 25 minutes. Roush has won this race in GTO a number of times, putting a gearbox in it. Last year with Nissan, we didn't have any trouble, and we went a record distance for that type car. We're prepared to do it, but we are also prepared to be very careful and save the gearbox.
James, I'll give you the last word here. Would you be amazed, surprised, or just plain old excited to win this race? Do you think you have that capability?
Yeah, if you're driving for Rob Dyson, you've always got an excellent chance of doing well, and this is the best effort Rob's put together since probably for about 2 or 3 years now. Got a great car, great engine. Our gearbox, we're very confident in. It's the same gearbox that Jaguar and Mercedes have had at Le Mans, Paul, when they won, so we don't think we'll be changing gearboxes.
Well, he's got all his lucky rabbits lined up there. I hope it's a good run for you both, and I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. James Weaver, Paul Gentilozzi, thanks very much. We have lots more, believe it or not, coming at you. Get ready for this year's Rolex 24. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Groundwork and a lot of homework, and I predict that the Ferraris are the car to beat. Some of the Le Mans cars are going to be tough, but Ferrari's here with a serious effort, and that's why I'm here with them.
And welcome back to the Classic Museum, everybody, right here in Daytona Beach. I'm Pat Patterson. Glad you've joined us for our first Race Week Special. Now, just a reminder, we've changed a little bit of what we used to do last year to include now all forms of motorsports. We hope you're going to enjoy that. And, of course, we're kicking it off with a great tradition down here, and that is the 24 Hours of Daytona, sponsored by Rolex. Wayne Taylor joins me to my left, Jeremy Dale to his left, and we just continue with all sorts of possible winners of this year's event. We'll start with Wayne, and I won't make you make a prediction right off the bat, but so far, how has it gone for you and your team, and what do you have left to do before tomorrow's race starts?
Well, Pat, it went really well up in testing at the beginning of the year, and we've come along here. We really thought we had a shot at going for the pole, and we got a rude awakening when we got here, and found we had a little problem, and we lost some straightaway speed, and so we decided just to concentrate on race pace and try and get set up for the race. As everybody knows, the question is, will the Ferraris go the distance?
Mm-hmm. And Jeremy, same question. You too came here with great expectations of maybe sitting on the front row, did you not?
We weren't sure. We tested here in December. Ferraris had at least 12 miles an hour on us through the tri-oval. And it's tough to make that up. Our chassis is good, but no matter how good the chassis is, that 12 miles an hour, where are you going to get that from? So we spun the motor a little harder. We missed qualifying yesterday, so we missed our shot at the front row, but we qualified today. We qualified fourth, so we bumped one of the Ferraris back because there were 4 Ferraris right at the front. So we felt good about that. But that grid position is not that important. We just need to settle into a good race pace and win the race.
Wayne, was your game plan thrown dramatically off by these early on problems that you had, or were you able to get back to where you wanted to be as far as this afternoon, looking at tomorrow's start?
No, it didn't throw us off, really. The bottom line is that the guy from the pole is not necessarily going to win the race. You really need to be there at 3 o'clock on Sunday, so it's been really important for us to work amongst the drivers to make us all comfortable with the car and the gearbox and so on. And so we're just really concentrating on trying to get the car to run 24 hours.
Do you have an A team this year in terms of people behind the wheel and pulling the duties for 24? Do you feel like you've got the right group assembled?
Well, we are the A team. There's no doubt that Dr. Moretti has got the finest guys out there, and I really think it's the team to be with.
He is another man who gives you all of the tools, if you would, in order to make things work. And I know that from a driver perspective, to go to work every day and know that you've got the best possible equipment makes a big difference.
Oh, there's no question. There's no shortage of anything. The engines just keep rolling in, and we've got a fantastic tyre contract with Goodyear, Duran Enterprises with all the guys there. They've all come from winning teams. They've won this race 3 times. It's just the best of the best.
You guys, Jeremy, must operate under look like 9 pits put together up on one end of the pit road. You certainly have got a lot of folks. Have you got the right folks? Is the question.
I think we do. We won our class here last year.
Right.
That was 9th overall. But anytime you finish this race, it's a real accomplishment. Any team that gets to the end, and we got to the end last year. The motor looked great at the end of the race, and we've got the same motor builders this year with our car, and it's the same group of guys essentially. I think it's a stronger group because we've had a year together, and we've had a good year together.
What are you, if anything, better at this year on this course than perhaps last year, or can you even at this point center on anything?
Well, last year, because this was our first race of the year with the World Sports Car, the car was not well developed. It was not fun to drive. It was a real chore to drive.
It was a hurry to get it to the racetrack, was it not?
It was a hurry to get to the racetrack, and it wasn't well sorted. So we drove this car that was just a real handful for 24 hours, and there were 4 of us in the car, and it just wore us down. And the car, in every corner felt like it wanted to bite you, and it was just awful. So, this year I wouldn't say the car is faster, but more than anything, it's a more comfortable car to drive, and it should be easier. We're doing the race this year with 3 drivers, and last year we had 4.
Wayne, you have how many?
We've got 4.
4 guys.
Yeah.
Are you any better this year than? At any particular thing around this course? Have you really consciously worked on something mentally to get better prepared this year?
Well, mentally, yes. I think this is my 11th 24 hour, and I can clearly say that of all the 24 hours I've gone into, this is the first one that I think I'm with a team in a car that has the speed to win the event. And it's a lot better going into an event feeling that you have the tools to actually win the race, rather than win by default.
I assume when you say speed, you also mean the endurance to win the race as well.
I'm hoping so, because this team last year finished every single race, and I think their worst result was like second. So I think they have the reliability, and now we just need to see how it does in 24 hours.
Do you remember your first 24 hours?
I'll never forget it. Yeah. It was,
tell us about it.
Well, the first 24 hours was the Le Mans 24 in '87, I think it was, and having never been there, the Mulsanne straight, I'll never forget it. It frightened the hell out of me. But we got through that, and like everything else. And actually, it was the best result I've ever had, which was the first one. We finished 4th overall.
Jeremy, same question here at Daytona. First 24, you remember it?
Yeah, 91. I remember it quite well. I was here in a Nissan Group C car, very powerful car, really quick car, and the first stint I did in the race was in the dark in the rain.
Ooh.
And that was the first time I'd ever run at Daytona. And that was a 215-mile-an-hour car. It was a pretty serious car. And we were leading in the morning when we blew a tire, and that put the car out of the race because we damaged the transmission.
It's great to see you both. Appreciate you coming over and spending some time with us, and we wish you luck. Wish everybody could win. Unfortunately, we'll have to just wait and see who does, but nevertheless, thank you both for coming over, and we look forward to seeing you run tomorrow.
Thanks.
Wayne Taylor and Jeremy Dale, and we're just getting wound up, folks. We got lots more to talk about. We'll be back to Daytona right after this.
And as we all know, when one Ferrari starts racing another Ferrari, there's a lot of honour at stake, so hopefully they'll beat themselves into the ground, and we can just waft along behind them and pick up the pieces.
And welcome back to Classics Auto Museum in Daytona Beach, and I tell you, it's exciting to get out and go around the Speedway here at Daytona International Speedway. If you ever get a chance to just come here and just walk around the infield and look at the racetrack and feel the excitement of the 24 hours of Daytona, it is an awesome, awesome feeling. It really is. It kind of gets the year kicked off right. Man who's going to kick it off right sits to my left, Steve Millen, and I know that you're ready to get back to winning form. You have had a good combination of guys working with you. How prepared are you this year?
Well, you're right. We are ready to get back to winning. We've experienced it. We know what it's like, and you can't beat it. And we want to be back in that winning circle again.
How has these 2 days gone for you? What have you had troubles? Both the car itself, is it ready, and are the drivers ready?
Well, I think the drivers are. I think our driver lineup with Johnny O'Connell and John Morton, we've run together a lot in the past. We won Sebring together last year. We went on to Le Mans and had a great victory there in IMSA racing. The car's a brand new car this year in terms of the motor. For 6 years we had the same turbocharged V6 Nissan motor, and IMSA have changed the rules for 95. They've said that no more turbos. So we're down here with a brand new motor. We're down here with a Nissan 4.5 litre 4-valve V8. So while the rest of the car is a well-known, good proven piece, this is the first time we've raced that motor.
Well, with the straightaways that you have here and the banking that we have here, certainly the bigger the better when it comes to getting through that part of the race course. Have you been impressed with just the power of this engine? Is it enough to make up what the turbo leaves behind?
Well, the rules are all different this year, and all the cars have been slowed down a bunch in GTS, but I am impressed. The Nissan motor's running very, very well. We're competitive in the class. We're leading the category in most time sessions and so on. So it's going very well so far. But 24 hours is a long, long time for a new motor.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, the thing that you've had to be most cautious about is trying to at least put yourself in a position. So will you automatically handicap yourself maybe a little bit more, take it a little bit easier in this car, just being that you have no history with the motor itself?
We do, Pat. We will have to do that because we just want to put as many miles on as we can. Obviously, we want to try and go the distance. We're going to try and repeat the championship and so on this year. And so we've got to try and get a lot of points here in this race because there's bonus points in this race as well. So you've got to run it hard, but also try and conserve it as well. So it's a delicate balance.
How do you come up with that decision? Who really makes that decision? Or if it's a group, who makes up the group that decides at what race pace you're going to run the car?
Well, I think that the Cunningham Racing, Clayton Cunningham and Frank Honsowitz from Nissan have been here a lot of times, and they know exactly how hard to run the car and so on. And so we all sit down together and we discuss it and we work out gear ratios and so on, what's the easiest on the car, and together we come up with the best plan.
Mathematically, can you make things look so good on paper that it gives you a great amount of confidence when you get into a 24-hour endurance race like this?
Well, I think last year when we came here, we absolutely were the guys to win the race, mainly because of the experience we had with the car and the engine, and also the team was well proven and so on. This year it's a wee bit different. The race would have to come back to us for us to win it this year, because we're not as quick as the WSC cars. They're faster, but I think that given our basic car and our team, we can win this race. There's no doubt.
You guys obviously all know how to handle traffic situations. Is traffic at Daytona more difficult than perhaps Sebring? Because Sebring being a sprint race, is traffic more difficult here? There's 70 some odd entries that are involved in this, and all of them running at some varied speeds. How difficult is it during the race to adjust for the traffic?
Traffic's a very, very big factor here, Pat. It really is. There's so many people in this race that starts tomorrow that hardly ever race because it consumes so many drivers. There's so many people that don't do very much racing and have never raced here at Daytona. And so you see people that haven't been here before running on the high line and the banking and so on, and you're not really sure if they've seen you, if you should go down below, if they're going to move down on you. So traffic is probably the #1 problem here. It really is. And there's so many drivers that they're so excited to be here and they want to race you.
Sure.
And you know, you don't want to race them.
I'll just about bet you, though, by 9 o'clock Sunday morning, you're very familiar with all those cars that tend to go up high on the banking and get in your way, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, you can't get irritated. You can't get mad, you can't get irritated or frustrated, because that's not the way to run a 24-hour race. The thing is you've just got to be patient and say, hey, if you want the corner, you take it. I'll pass you next straight.
A lot of folks don't realize that, you know, stock car races, the radios, communications between the pit area and the driver, sometimes it's constant. When a guy will run a 500-lap race, they give him lap times about every 2 or 3 laps to see where he's at. How much chatter is actually on a radio between you and the pit area during a 4-hour stint or a 3-hour stint behind the wheel in these cars?
Well, it's not a constant thing, but you're communicating every lap, once or twice a lap. You know, you're talking about the lap time, you're talking about any change on the track or anything at all that's happening, you know, but there's constant communication with the crew. More so in this race, I think, than in a 1-hour sprint race. In a 1-hour sprint race, it's 100% hard as you can go. In this race, you can't have that kind of philosophy. You've got to sit back, relax, and just look after the car.
Physical preparation, a big factor?
It is. You've got to be fit down here. If you're not, you won't make it, you know. Daytona is extremely hard, I think, to drive, much more than Le Mans. Le Mans is, I think, an easier track to do 24 hours at.
Do you ever take yourself out of the car long before you're supposed to? Do you get to a point where, you know, a bell goes off and says, I've overestimated how long I should stay in this car?
That's a good question, Pat, because you do, particularly when you're younger and you're not used to doing this race, you do tend to want to drive for too long, and you can tire yourself out too early in the race.
I asked this question earlier. Can you go back into the race car with the same focus that you came out? Or are you always looking to go? Do you drive 3 different races here all in one race?
You're not up as high as you are in a sprint race. You know, you've got to sort of maintain a sort of a more level anxiety level, if you will. But it's not hard to get back up and get into it again, because it's a fun race. It really is to be out there.
Well, you know, you're going to have to hang around for a week or so after this race is over with, because you get your first shot at the IROC series. How excited are you about that?
I'm very excited. That's a dream come true. You know, for a guy who comes from a little country like New Zealand, you only ever read and wonder what that would be like, and to be actually doing it. It's really just a fabulous opportunity. I'm very excited about that.
Now, for people that don't know, you have no practice in this until you get here for the first time, right? This will be the first time that you've been out, or have you had a chance to run some of these cars before getting to Daytona?
No, next week I'll start here in the IROC cars. I'll have 3 days down here, and then the following week is the race.
If you guys can win tomorrow, will this be any more special, or do you think the fact that you will have, you know, beaten a great lineup of competition this year, would it be more special than even last year's victory?
I think it would be. We came here last year as the favourites, and we're not the favourites this year because of the unknown motor. So it would be more special to win it this time, I think, because we're not expected to win. But any time you can win, you got to take it because it's fantastic.
All right, before we get away, I got to ask you one more question. We saw you over in Japan not too long ago, and there was a neat little piece that was done over there for another program that we work with. But what I want to ask you about is that racetrack. That racetrack looked absolutely marvelous. How wonderful actually was it compared to the pictures?
Fabulous, wasn't it? It was just, it has to be the most sophisticated racing track in the world. Just it had all the amenities that one could wish for. Just amazing. And it's in a very, very remote part of Japan. So it's a bit of a waste, really.
Will you get a chance to race there this year?
I don't think so. I don't think they plan on doing it there. I've been to Japan a couple of times racing, in fact 3 times, and they try and go to a different track every time. So that's interesting, but that track was really amazing.
Yeah, it looked that way. Thanks so much for coming over, spending some time with us. Luck to you with this 24, and who knows, maybe we'll visit again before the weekend's over with.
Well, I hope we do, Pat. It would be nice to be back here again on Sunday night.
Steve Millen has been our guest, and we hope that you'll hang around because we got a lot more to talk about. We'll be back with more from Daytona right after this.
Well, I think there's always a good chance. I mean, if you can give any car the same kind of race that the Nissan ran last year, I think you're going to see the winner. I mean, they came into the pits and put gas and oil in it, and that was it. I mean, they pretty much had a flawless 24 hours, which it's anybody's dream race there. And welcome back to Daytona, everybody, to our very first Western Auto Race Week Special. As we get ready to kick off all the activities of Speed Weeks, we'll be with you down here next Friday night, getting ready for the Busch Clash and, of course, the ARCA race. Then the next week, we'll have 5 opportunities to talk to you Monday through Friday, getting ready for the Daytona 500. And believe it or not, we'll even have more after that. We'll be back with some Bike Week activities. Seems like everything that races is racing here in Florida over these next couple of months. Joining me to my left is a many-faceted individual who's involved in this sport from a lot of different ways, but I'm going to talk to Charlie Slater, the driver, first, and we'll find out how it has gone so far this year. You got a good feeling about this 24 hours of Daytona?
Oh yeah, Pat, we've got a very good feeling. We've had this year a really strong driver lineup of very experienced 911 Porsche drivers, 993 this year in the new car, but we've got Jack Lewis from Atlanta, Joe Cogbill, and Monty Shelton from the West Coast.
You've done this before. In fact, I think you said 6 times. Or is this the 5th or 6th one?
This is my 5th.
And is it as exciting every time you come back, or does anyone ever match the first one?
It's exciting for me every time because of the hope that you have of finishing the race, first of all, and if you're real lucky, then maybe even placing or winning the race.
Well, let's complicate matters now and tell everybody that you got into the IMSA series last year in a much bigger way than just riding a car. In fact, you ended up buying the whole series.
And, a year ago today.
It is your baby. As a matter of fact, I think I remember that this was exactly a year ago. How has the first year gone as Charlie Slater, the administrator now?
Well, to be completely honest with you, it's been an uphill battle, and I think that we're close to seeing the crest of the hill, if you will. We've got a lot of enthusiasm drummed up in the U.S. and overseas, as you can see from our turnout at this race this year. Last year we started out with 8 World Sports Cars, and this year we have almost 3 times that many, so we're real happy with that.
A lot of times a guy has a product for a year, and the first question you want to ask him 1 year on that anniversary is, want to sell it, or you going to hold on to it?
No, I'm going to be holding on to it for quite a while. It's looking real good, and I think that we're going to take IMSA to new heights.
I've done a little promoting in my life, and I can tell you that racers are not the easiest people to deal with. I'm sure you found that out over this past year. But being a racer, how much has being a racer helped you when you hear what they have to say?
I think it's helped more than anything else. The ability for me to talk with the other competitors and for them to believe what I'm saying. It lends some credibility, as opposed to an administrator, if you will, looking down and saying to all the competitors, you have to do this. I think that they feel that they can trust me a little bit more in what I'm saying and believe in me.
Decisions can't make everybody happy, though, can they?
No, not at all. Especially in racing. You have many different factions, and they all have their own agendas, and that's why they're there. You know, racing is today, especially, is an entertainment package for fans and sponsors to hawk their wares, if you will, and it's very competitive, and it has to be. And you're dealing with people manufacturers and other entities with egos and large amounts of money at stake. And you have to be very diplomatic, and you have to be willing to take some chances and stand your ground as well.
Something tells me that this is not something that you could readily walk away from and say, well, it just didn't work, it's just one of those business deals that didn't happen. When you do something, when you compete in something like you do in this sport, this thing can become a real personal challenge. Has it become that for you? And did it take this whole year to get you to that point?
No, it was a personal challenge before I bought the company, actually. It took quite a while in the negotiations, and it was supposed to be finalized well before the Rolex last year, and actually ended up happening on Friday before the race.
Well, I won't hold you up any longer, but I will ask you this. What are your chances of going to victory lane?
Oh, man. Well, I have mixed emotions about that, actually, because there's one thing I don't want to do, and that's to lend anyone any kind of false perceptions about my my desires with IMSA. I'm not in it to do anything for my own personal racing goals. So I would be very happy we'd finish the race and place well.
I want to wish you well this year. I know you're excited about a new year. I know that this is going to be a tough year in terms of transitions and trying to make everybody happy, but I know that you've got a good team assembled, and we wish you well.
We're really excited about this year. We just got news yesterday. We're adding the New Orleans Grand Prix at the end of the year, so I think it's going to be a great finale.
Congratulations. Hope it's a good weekend down here at Daytona, and appreciate you spending some time. Charlie Slater, racer slash owner of IMSA, and we're just getting started again. We have more guests from Daytona, so we'll pay some more bills, and we'll be right back. All right, back for one quick minute here before we say goodbye. Steve Millen joins me back up here for just a second. I didn't ask this question to anybody, and I figured I'd get one last question out of you, and that is weather. How much difference is it going to make if we get a lot of rain between now and the start of this race tomorrow afternoon?
Well, I think if it rains between now and the start of the race, it doesn't really matter very much at all. But if it rains during the night, it's going to make a huge difference, because not a lot of guys like to run in the rain.
Good. You're our acting weatherman. I appreciate you answering that question, and again, I appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us. We have had a great show. We appreciate everybody coming out and spending some time. We're at the Classic Auto Museum, Daytona Beach, Florida, getting ready for the Rolex 24. We're glad you've joined us. We have a lot more programs coming your way from Speed Weeks. Hope you'll make plans to join us. Until then, I'm Pat Patterson. Thanks to all our guests, and thanks to all the crew. We'll see you next time.
The Pat Patterson Raceweek Specials, brought to you by Western Auto, the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR. Communications provided by Racing Electronics. For a free catalog, call 1-800-272-7111. Featherlight Trailers, the official trailer of NASCAR and major sponsor of the NHRA. Remember to call Featherlight for all your trailer needs at 1-800-800-1230. Set chairs provided by Showtime Products.